So please tell us the premise of your new short film premiering at South by Southwest. I probably shouldn't be telling you this.
Yeah. So my short film is about two people. One is a podcaster who has a pretty successful podcast. The other one is sort of an Instagram influencer, but not your typical influencer. She's pretty transparent and kind of self-flagellating about what she shares online. Uh, Not the most like flattering things. But definitely an oversharer and kind of like puts her dirty laundry on display. And she's also pretty public about being a liar. And so she goes on this podcast, and throughout the recording of it, it all takes place during the recording of the podcast. Sort of truth starts to come up, and we find out that these two people before the podcast was recorded both were essentially obsessed with each other in their own way. She was a huge fan of the podcast, was acting like she wasn't. He was kind of in love with her, stalking her Instagram, whatever. So that's the premise essentially.
Awesome. And how did you find inspiration for the characters in the short film? They are very unique people.
Well, so I was interested in writing something about a compulsive liar. I've I've known some of them in my life, unfortunately, and it's fascinating. I really became kind of like, wow, this is really an interesting thing. And something I noticed that compulsive liars did was they were often honest about being liars. So I was interested in exploring that, and then sort of during the pandemic, I really felt like the world kind of became super online and people just started to share even more. And I was really encouraged and rewarded to start to like overshare. So I was interested in a character that was both an oversharer and a compulsive liar, and what kind of tension is in that. And then I was also during the pandemic, listening to a lot of podcasts. There wasn't much socializing that I was able to do, sadly. And I was like, what if like there's something there was also a really interesting tension for me and something being live, and obviously you can edit it, and then like what that conversation would be if something comes up and you're like, oh, we have to cut this out, like how that is explored. So I don't really see Frank as really much more honest than Minna, to be honest. He's what David, one of the actors, said that I thought was really smart is Frank is a liar about being truthful, and Minna is truthful about being a liar. And I don't think that one is superior to the other. You can make your own deduction, but I was interested in just sort of having these two people have the truth come out about them and see how both of them react, and how they fight to not be honest. Even once it's like, okay, you can't defend yourself. I've been in situations with compulsive liars where it's like literally they've dug themselves into this hole, and they just won't stop lying. It's like you can't lie anymore, and they just don't stop. So that's what I was interested in writing about with the characters. I just like vomited that out. Sorry.
No, that was good. I'd say you were successful as well.
Yeah.
You directed, co-produced, and wrote this short film. Describe what it was like for you wearing so many hats during production.
It was great. I mean, I had a lot of support. We had a really strong crew, a lot of close friends, and a lot of really experienced people. So it was kind of a mixed set of people who were helping me out, and then people who had a ton of experience and I was learning so much from. I think like it helps me to write the script to then direct it. I am definitely curious and not doing that because that's the only thing I've ever done, but it sort of feels like it's an extension of pre-production for me, writing the script, and then I really feel like I know the script. And we were able to really do a lot of rehearsal time. The actors were super excited about that because it was such a small cast and a contained short film. Like we would just kind of like run through it like a play. And I went to UNCSA in North Carolina and studied acting there. So theater training was what I was doing there. And so just running a rehearsal I was so excited to get to do that. It was a really big privilege for sure. And then in terms of producing, I co-produced with Will Noyce, and he sort of he's taught me everything I know about producing, and I'm not really a producer except for my own things. But yeah, it was really under his wing and wouldn't have been possible without him. Yeah, and it was just such a I've only really done sort of run and gun small production stuff before where, you know, I'm doing 5 jobs. So this was like a huge relief. And it was really the biggest set I've ever run, which I learned so much from. And I'm really excited to not produce the next thing I do at all and just really get to direct and focus on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you touched upon this a little bit, but how did the creative process that you went through during filming for this one differ from your previous short films like Fuckboy and some of the others that you've participated in?
Yeah, the creative process. Well, so me and the actors talked a lot. We'd like had a lot of meetings where we would just kind of talk about the script, obviously, but then also our personal connection to it. And me and Alexis really like built the character. Alexis plays Minna in the film, sort of built this character together and, you know, pulled fashion references and stuff. We like, yeah, kind of designed the character essentially together, like talked about what her Instagram would be like, all kinds of things like that. And then like I said, with the rehearsal process, just really felt like I wanted them to, as much as possible, feel like they were actually talking. That was super important to me. So getting to have time where they were really getting to say the text to each other and get really fast with it because of this, there's so much overlapping dialogue. It was important to me that they really were solid on their lines and really comfortable with each other. Luckily they knew each other before, and so that was definitely a privilege we had. But yeah, and they both were just so open to explore things, and a lot of my process is based in really asking questions. I don't think you can ever stop asking questions when you're in a process. There's always more to explore. And so I sort of, with this film, came into pre-production with some questions I wanted to ask, and we all explored those together throughout the pre-production process. And then we're like, okay, I think we have some, I guess, answers to those questions or things that we want to present that these questions have raised to us. And that's what you see in the film, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. How involved were you in the casting of this short film? The actors, they really fit kind of that archetypal figure of who they were supposed to represent, and they did play off of each other very well.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of wrote this with Alexis in mind, to be honest. Not really like, oh, I want to write something for Alexis, but when I was writing this, I was like, who could do this? And I was like, Alexis. She's a genius comedic actress. And she has a background in YouTube, you know, which is, I think, a really good skill because she had to be editing her film, well, her videos, and really getting this comedic timing down. And I went to acting school and, you know, was working alongside really brilliant people. And I'd say Alexis is one of the most brilliant actors I've ever gotten to watch, just in terms of always bringing fresh things into the rehearsal process and even into takes. Really even feeling comfortable asking questions when we're shooting on set. And yeah, she's just really curious, and really spontaneous and so funny. She when I brought the script to her, she was like, I think maybe my friend David would be good for this. And then we all sat down and I was like, definitely. By the first reading, they were like, it was perfect. So it wasn't much of I really didn't have anyone else audition for it. It was pretty nice. But yeah, I have a background in casting and know about that and like to do that. So I'm excited to get to do that next time. But this was really kind of I don't know, it all worked out and fell into place.
Yeah, sounds like kismet. So perfect.
Yes.
I probably shouldn't be telling you this is really eerily successful at accessing the unique personalities of e-girls, podcasters, influencer culture. How did you manage to capture their essence so well?
That's a really good question. I think I know a lot of them. Is the truth. I know a lot of e-girls. I don't think I define myself as one, but I guess it was something that I knew, and that's I think that a lot of my the things that I've written have been a response to, or in a bit of a rebellion to acting school. And sort of it was great. And I'm so grateful for this. We really like dove into like classic text, and we're doing, Chekhov and Brecht and Shakespeare and stuff. And you have to study that. And sort of what inspired Fuckboy to be written, my last film, was me and the other actors being like, we just want to play ourselves, like, or we just want to play like a character we would play, because they really stretch you in acting school. Like Noah, one of the actresses, was, playing a baby in one play, and also was like a prostitute, and Annika was playing like a 50-year-old social worker. And like we were all just like, let's just write someone our age. And I think similarly with this, I wanted to write something that felt really current. Characters, there's e-girls and stuff, but I wanted to do my own take on that. As well as now it does feel like there's some podcast movies, but at the time when I was writing, I was like, there's not any of this. And I was really fascinated with podcasts before I wrote it. So yeah. And that's kind of what I want to continue to do, is like write characters that are fresh, that are current, that I feel connected to. Like, I don't think I'm an Negro, but I could connect to it. I get it. And I don't think I'll ever be a podcaster, but I could connect to it. Certainly listen to them. Yeah. So that's sort of where they came from for me.
Great. What scenes or segments were you nervous about filming, or, excited to see them come to life, or how well filming went?
Super good question. I think there wasn't really a specific part I was worried about, except I was more concerned about, we had 2 days to shoot this. We were doing day for night, so we started shooting at 4 to 4, basically 2 days in a row. So I was just worried about, how much text there is, us getting through it, us feeling like we really got it. That was definitely a concern. And then I think also like the ending, we were in rehearsal never really wanting to fully go there, wanting to save the full emotion of that, so it was fresh. And so glad we did that, because it really, like, when they were doing that scene, the air was taken out of the room, because it would just felt like we mostly shot it chronologically. It felt like they built up to this moment. Emotionally, it was like, it was like 3 a.m. and the last day, and we were just like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm super grateful for that. But I was definitely like, if this isn't it, I don't know what we're gonna do. yeah. We would have figured it out, but yeah.
No, awesome. This film very much feels like a commentary on society's kind of newfound propensity to overshare to large audiences. Why do you think a microphone and a virtual audience emboldens these, chronically online media personalities?
Well, I think that like vulnerability is really captivating. I think that, yeah, I was just on TikTok the other day, and your attention span is really interesting. It's very short now. And I think if someone immediately starts telling the truth, you're going to be interested. Then one of my drama teachers would talk about how there's like literally there's your brain can tell when someone is being honest. There's like a chemical response that you have that you can see in someone's face when they're telling the truth. And I think that when someone really, like, Minna does tell the truth, and when she's sharing disgusting things about herself or tweeting crazy things, a lot of that is true. Sometimes she creates things for a story, but I think that what makes her really captivating is like, oh my God, I can't believe that you said that. And I also, like, I have the same, I'm gross like that too, but I would never share that. So there's a bit of like I don't know, it's sort of like they're sharing something forbidden, or what is the word?
Taboo.
Taboo. That's what it is. Yes. Yeah. So it definitely, it's clickbait, and it makes you like immediately way more interested than if someone's just like, telling a story, they're whatever, doing a TikTok dance. Like something forbidden or unseen, or, oh, no one's ever gone there, is immediately is immediately more interesting. But is it really risky if you're someone like Minna and you're just doing that all the time? And then when you're actually asked, like, or confronted, like, Minna, you listen to my podcast, I know this, you can't even say, okay, fine. You just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Um, this short is going to be shown at South by Southwest. What does this accomplishment mean to you?
That's everything. It's huge. South by was like the festival that I was like, if I see this fitting in somewhere, it'd be that. But that is such a massive fest. Like I would never even dream of that. Because it's definitely a strange short. Like it's not your average short film. It's all in one location. There's literally a bit of blocking. It's not. Yeah. It's definitely like something that I think South by would support because they're like very much supporting kind of experimental work and diverse voices all the time, and current lots of current like topics as well in their films. Yeah, but it was huge. When I heard, I couldn't believe it, and I'm still like, I don't believe it until I'm there. I'm like, I don't believe it. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's huge. It's so huge. I'm so honored. And I'm so excited to also just be able to share it and also see other work. Like also just going to South by, I'd be so excited to just get to do. So this is a huge, huge honor.
Absolutely. And what do you hope audiences take away from I Probably Shouldn't Be Telling You This?
Great question. Yeah, I hope that people, when they watch this, they reflect on their own bullshit, essentially. I think that we lie all the time in our lives. And most, I think, yeah, Frank has a line where he's like, you feel really alone, Minna, because you're telling people you lie and stuff and no one else admits it, and so that's why you feel so alone. But yeah, everyone's just the same as you. You're not some angel and you're not some like bad person. And I hope that because they're both pretty, this is a pretty extreme version of confrontation, and Min is an extreme version of a liar. But I hope that people see themselves in it and they consider that, and they also consider like moments when they've had the opportunity to tell the truth, and when that in the future they're given opportunities like that, and they think about how these characters fought to not be vulnerable and not be honest, and yeah, I don't know, maybe it will change their actions. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's great. What are the other upcoming projects that you've been busy working on?
Yeah. So I have been working on another script for a short film that I'd want to be a proof of concept for a feature. Yeah, it's autobiographical about an experience I went through, and it's about my relationship with my brother. Kind of, yeah. But I would like to act in it, and he'll act in it, and I'll direct it. Yeah, and it's kind of a more of a character study of a fuck boy, versus I think in fuckboy the actual fuck boys are sort of caricatures, not really dimensional, sort of funny character, like yeah, not real people. Yeah. And this is really I'm wanting to explore a fuck boy's full what really makes him tick, and his relationship with women, and how his chronic mistreatment of women is kind of challenged by when his own sister, and when like other women in his life are mistreated, how that makes him look at himself. And yeah,
awesome.
So that's that. I'm in process with the feature, and yeah, looking to get funding, and yeah.
Great. I'm sure I know myself, and I'm sure many others are looking forward to that.